I always thought I knew Lisa pretty well. We'd been married for 5 years, and honestly, I thought we had a solid, uncomplicated relationship. Sure, there were the usual ups and downs, but nothing out of the ordinary. We had this annual tradition of celebrating our anniversary somewhere special, usually a fancy hotel or a cozy weekend getaway. Last year, it was a trip to Charleston. The year before, New York. I was looking forward to this year's trip more than anything because we decided to do something different. A romantic, secluded week away at a luxury resort somewhere in the mountains. Just the two of us, no distractions, no work, no kids. I thought it was perfect. From the start, Lisa seemed a little more tense than usual. She was snappy, snapping at me over small things, which was unlike her. I brushed it off as stress from work, or maybe she was just tired. Besides, she always had her little bitchy moments, but I figured it was just her personality. Still, something felt off. She was unusually secretive about her phone, always hiding it when I came near, locking it even when she was just in the bathroom. I did press her too hard, yet. I figured it was just her being paranoid, or maybe she was just annoyed about some work thing she didn't want to talk about. But I started noticing little things: missed calls she'd hide, texts she'd delete quickly, and a new perfume she'd started wearing a few days before we left. Nothing concrete, but enough to make my gut tighten a little. As we packed for the trip, Lisa was more assertive than usual, bossing me around about what to pack, what to wear, even how to behave. She kept saying, "This is our special weekend, don't screw it up, Jason," with that nasty little smirk. I thought it was just her usual bitchiness mixed with excitement, but looking back, it was more like a warning. That night before we left, she stayed up late, texting on her phone under the blanket, whispering into it quietly. I saw her eyes flicker with something: guilt, anxiety. I couldn't tell. I didn't say anything then. I was too tired, and honestly, I didn't want to ruin the trip before it even started. The drive to the resort was mostly silent. She played with her phone, kept giving me these sharp little glances. When I tried to make conversation, she'd respond with monosyllables or roll her eyes. It wasn't the Lisa I knew. She was usually pretty lively, joking around, teasing me. Instead, she was tense, guarded, like she was hiding something. I told myself I was imagining things. Maybe she was just stressed, maybe she was nervous about the trip. But deep down, I felt a prick of doubt, a strange feeling that I couldn't quite shake. And I guess that's what made me start paying closer attention, even if I didn't want to admit it at first. We finally get to the resort after a long, bumpy drive, and I'm trying to shake off the weird vibe. I really wanted to enjoy this weekend with Lisa, but something was nagging at me. The moment we got into the hotel room, I noticed how she immediately went to check her phone again, like she was making sure no one was watching her. She kept texting, and every time I looked at her, she'd quickly hide the screen or pretend she was just scrolling through photos. That's when I saw the message pop up with a name I did recognize: Jake. A guy I'd never heard her mention before. It was a simple reply, just "can't wait to see you," but even that small message hit me like a punch. I felt a cold sweat break out. My stomach clenched. How long had she been talking to this guy? Was this just a flirtation, or had it been going on for weeks? The worst part was, I had no idea. I kept looking at her, trying to read her face, but she was acting so normal, so unaffected. Like she didn't just have a secret dinner date with her supposed best friend, who I now knew was actually her lover. I had a moment of clarity then. This wasn't just some innocent flirtation. It was something more, something she'd planned, hidden behind that bitchy smirk she always threw at me when she was annoyed. I was furious, but I also felt betrayed on a level I couldn't describe. Later that night, after we went to bed, I waited until she was asleep. I quietly grabbed my phone and started digging into her messages, her social media, anything I could get my hands on. I found more evidence: texts full of flirtatious innuendos, pictures she'd taken of herself in the hotel mirror, showing off her legs and cleavage, all with that same guy Jake. They had a whole conversation about plans for later, about keeping it secret, about how badly they wanted to be alone together. I couldn't believe what I was reading. It was like a punch to the gut over and over. She was lying to my face, playing me for a fool. I kept asking myself, how long has this been going on? Weeks? Months? Did she plan this entire trip around him? That thought made me feel sick. I stayed awake most of the night trying to process everything. I was furious, so furious I wanted to scream. I felt betrayed, humiliated, like my whole life had been a lie. How could she do this? How could she look me in the eye and lie so easily? I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew I had to be careful. This wasn't the kind of betrayal you just brush off. It cut deep, and I was certain that whatever I said or did, this would change everything forever. The worst part was I still loved her, despite everything. I loved Lisa, and knowing she'd been sleeping with her best man, Jake, was tearing me apart. I kept thinking about how I'd been so blind, how I missed all the warning signs. And now I wondered, how long had this been going on? Was I just the fool she was using? The next morning, I woke up to the sound of her phone buzzing on the nightstand. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to decide what to do. Part of me wanted to confront her immediately, to shove her awake and demand explanations. But another part, more cautious, more hurt, wanted to see how far she'd go before I blew everything up. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but everything pointed to the fact that I'd stumbled into something far worse than I'd imagined. Lisa was still sleeping, her chest rising and falling steadily, her face peaceful in sleep, like she had no idea of what I knew. I hesitated, then reached over and grabbed her phone. I unlocked it, expecting to see more of her secret messages, more proof of her betrayal, and I wasn't disappointed. There were dozens of texts, a trail of lies, flirtation, promises to meet up, even plans that clearly showed they'd been sneaking around for a while. The worst part was the tone, flirtatious, teasing, like they couldn't keep their hands off each other. I felt a rage building inside me, but I also knew I had to stay calm. If I lost it now, I might say or do something I'd regret forever. So I quietly took screenshots of everything. I needed proof. I needed to be sure. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. I kept telling myself this isn't just about her cheating. It's about my whole life being a lie, my trust shattered. How could she have been so bitchy, so cold, and yet still hiding this? And I kept wondering, how long had she been planning this? Was this just a one-time thing, or had she wanted to do this for a while? Before I could change my mind, I decided I had to talk to her. I gently shook her awake and waited until her eyes fluttered open. Her face looked surprised, almost annoyed when she saw me staring at her. I held up the phone and said, "Who is Jake?" Her face froze. There was that look, defensive, guilty, like she'd been caught with her hand in the cookie jar. She tried to brush it off, smirking and saying, "What are you talking about? It's nothing, Jason. Just some stupid messages. It's not what it looks like." But I already knew better. I saw the truth in her eyes, that lie, that false bravado she always used when she was caught being a bitch. I pushed her, demanding answers. She started her usual bullshit, saying it was just a misunderstanding, that Jake was just a friend, that I was overreacting. She tried to gaslight me, tell me I was paranoid, that I was jealous, that I was reading too much into it. But I knew the truth now. I knew she'd been sneaking around, lying, cheating. The hurt was like a punch in the stomach, but my anger was rising faster now, a mixture of betrayal and rage. How could she do this? How long had she been planning this? I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, so naive. I thought we had something real, something good. Turns out she'd been a bitch all along, hiding her true colors behind that fake smile. We argued for what felt like hours. She kept crying, saying she loved me, that it was just a mistake, that Jake meant nothing, that it was a one-time thing. But I didn't believe her, not anymore. I saw her for who she really was, bitchy, manipulative, and willing to screw everything up just to get what she wanted. That morning, I realized my world was crashing down, and I was left standing there with nothing but a tidal wave of betrayal and heartbreak. I knew I had to make a choice, whether to forgive her and try to fix this, or finally admit that the trust was broken beyond repair. And honestly, I was leaning toward the latter. After hours of back and forth, Lisa finally broke down. Her tears weren't the genuine kind, more like crocodile tears meant to manipulate. She kept insisting it was all a mistake, that Jake meant nothing, that she was drunk, that she was stressed out, that she hated herself, but I wasn't buying any of her bullshit anymore. I looked at her, and for the first time in a long while, I saw her for what she truly was, a bitchy, lying cheater who had no regard for what we had. I felt this strange mix of disgust and relief. Disgust because I'd been so blind, and relief because I finally knew the truth. I could stop pretending everything was fine. I told her to pack her bags, that I didn't want her around anymore. I was done. She kept begging, trying to spin some story about how she was sorry and how she loved me, but to me, love was showing respect, not sneaking behind my back and lying. As she packed, I stood there watching her, feeling like I was watching some stranger, someone I didn't even recognize. The woman who had once been my wife, my partner, was now just a stranger who had betrayed me in the worst way possible. I asked her if she had been planning this, if she'd been emotionally cheating on me long before this trip, and she just shrugged and said, "Maybe. What does it matter now?" I didn't say a word in response. I just felt this hollow emptiness inside, like I'd lost a part of myself that I could never get back. I didn't want to scream or yell anymore. I just wanted her gone. I realized I couldn't stay in a marriage where I was constantly looking over my shoulder, wondering if she was lying or cheating again. I knew I had to cut ties for my own sanity. But the pain, the rawness of it all, was unbearable. I kept thinking about everything I'd lost: trust, respect, the person I thought I knew, and I wondered how long she'd been lying to me, how long she'd been planning this betrayal. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but I knew I couldn't fix this. Not anymore. In the days that followed, I didn't sleep. I kept replaying everything, trying to figure out if I missed the signs, if I could have done something differently. But deep down, I knew the truth. She was just another bitch who lied and cheated her way through our marriage. The worst part was, I still loved her, even now. That's what hurt the most. Love isn't supposed to feel like this. Love isn't supposed to come with betrayal, lies, and a gut-wrenching sense of loss. I had to accept that the person I thought I was married to was someone entirely different, someone who could betray me so easily, so coldly, and I wondered how long I'd been blind to it. I wondered if I had ever really known her at all. In the days following everything, I stayed in my apartment, trying to make sense of what had happened. My mind kept circling back to all the little clues I'd ignored, all the times I'd dismissed her bitchy attitude or her secrecy as just her being difficult. Now, I saw how everything fit together like a puzzle I'd been too blind to see. Lisa had been planning this for a while, maybe even before the trip. I kept asking myself how long she had been cheating on me with Jake, probably months, maybe longer. The thought made me sick. I kept feeling this mix of anger, sadness, and a deep sense of betrayal. I'd loved her for so long, and now I wondered if I'd ever really known her. I decided I needed to get out of the house, clear my head. I called some friends, went for a long walk, tried to avoid thinking about her. But every time I closed my eyes, I could see her lying there, pretending to be innocent. That fake bitchy smile of hers. I kept replaying her excuses, how she said it was just sex, how it meant nothing, how she wished she could undo it. But I knew better. I knew it was more than just sex. It was her saying goodbye to us, to what we had. And I felt a surge of rage. How dare she lie to my face? How dare she think she could just get away with it? I started thinking about what I should do next. I knew I had to make a choice, either try to forgive her and work through this, or cut her out completely. Honestly, I was leaning toward ending everything. Trust was shattered, and I couldn't see a way back from that. But the hardest part was knowing I still loved her deep down, even with all the heartbreak. That love felt like a curse now. Every memory, every moment I'd shared with her felt tainted, stained by betrayal. I realized I'd have to rebuild my life from scratch, somehow moving on from this nightmare. It's crazy. I never thought I'd be here, writing all this out, wondering if I'd ever find someone I could trust again. But I know I need to do what's best for me, even if it hurts like hell. Now I'm just trying to breathe, trying to figure out how to move forward. The pain is raw, but I know I won't let her define me. I learned a lot from this, about trust, about how some people can be so manipulative, and about the importance of paying attention to the signs. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone going through something similar, it's to listen to your gut. Don't ignore the red flags, no matter how much you love someone. Because once that trust is broken, it's damn hard to fix. And sometimes the only way to save yourself is to walk away. I'm still hurt, still angry, but I know I'll get through this. I just have to keep reminding myself that I deserve better. Looking back, I realize how much this whole mess has changed me. It's not just about the betrayal or the heartbreak. It's about learning to trust myself again. I used to think love meant never having to worry, never doubting your partner. Now I know that's naive. Love requires honesty, respect, and loyalty, things Lisa clearly didn't understand. I've come to accept that some people are just manipulative, selfish, and willing to throw everything away for a moment of sex or excitement. It's a harsh lesson, but one I needed. In the end, I decided to cut her out of my life completely. I filed for divorce and I'm slowly rebuilding myself. It's not easy. I still wake up some mornings feeling empty, questioning everything. But I also feel a strange sense of relief. I don't have to wonder if she's hiding something, lying to me, or sneaking behind my back. I can finally breathe again, and that's worth everything. I've learned that revenge and anger only hurt you in the long run, so I've chosen to focus on healing instead. I refuse to let her betrayal define me or ruin my future. If there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's this: pay attention to what's really going on. Don't ignore the signs. Trust your instincts even if it hurts. Because the pain of betrayal is one of the worst feelings in the world, but coming out the other side stronger is even more powerful. Love is built on honesty, and if that's broken, everything else crumbles. I may have lost a wife, but I gained clarity. I learned that some people are just not worth the sacrifice. And while it's going to take time, I believe I'll find happiness again, better, wiser, and more cautious than ever before.